You are experiencing irrational fear. What you are fearing doesn't make any kind of sense because there is no logical structure behind the fear that you are going through. I know this sounds weird, but let me explain the situation. Irrational fear happens when you have a logical lapse. A logical lapse, in other words, means that you are jumping from one conclusion to the other. You are jumping from the normal situation to the worst case scenario without properly going through the motion of step by step analyzing what could possibly happen when you are afraid. So for example, think of a plane crash. You are afraid of going onto a plane because you fear it's going to crash and you are going to die. Where is the logicality behind what you just went through? You simply started at I hop into the plane and I will crash when I get into the plane. Without properly thinking about all the logical things that could possibly happen. Okay, why could a plane crash? Well, when a bird flies into it. Well, what is the possibility of the plane being able to crash? Well, it's actually not that big as you think it is because, well, why are you in the first place afraid of the plane crashing and dying? Well, you have watched a lot of videos that have instilled this fear inside of you that planes crash. At that moment, your brain is going through an error and you are unable to critically think through the situation step by step. You are only thinking about the worst case scenario and not thinking of how could I possibly solve the situation that I'm in. Now, forget the plane crash. Think about something that you fear drastically. All logic is skipped when you go from the starting position to the worst case scenario because there's no logic involved. You're not breaking down the steps to why something could happen. You're not taking the time for it to properly materialize into your brain and to realize, okay, the chances of it to happen is quite low. And if you were able to do this, then you wouldn't be so afraid of what you are actually going to experience in the first place. When all logic escapes your brain, your mind, then nothing that you experience will make sense. Or let's say nothing that you fear makes any kind of sense. And there's only one way to solve it, and that is to do it. Simply to take action on what you fear. Because what you lack in that moment is repeatedly doing that activity that you fear and realizing that what you fear isn't real. That it is all simply an illusion that is created by the mind in order to protect you. So you have to act even when afraid. Because courage is acting when you feel fear, acknowledging that you feel fear and despite feeling it, still doing it. That's courage. If you are afraid of talking to many people at once, so for example, public speaking, go do public speaking. Take action. Now, you don't have to be that extreme in the beginning. You know, public speaking is quite a skill that you have to build up. And so is also killing off this irrational fear that you have. You have to take it step by step. You start off small. For example, you are afraid of public speaking. Well, can you talk to only one person at one given moment? No? Okay, we'll start doing that. Then start talking in front of 2 people at once. Then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6, and you have to progressively overload. You have to progressively overload this because it's a skill, and a skill is built up by repeatedly doing it over and over again and making it more difficult as the time goes on. And then over time, you'll notice that you'll be able to talk in front of 20, 30, 40, 50 people at once. Why? Because you are used to doing this. You know, when I first started off making YouTube videos, I kind of feared talking into the camera. I feared it so much because I didn't have the skill to talk in front of a camera. I was thinking of, oh, there's so many people who could potentially be watching this, and at this point, I don't even care if 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 people eventually end up watching my videos because I've done it enough times to not be that fearful of it because in the beginning, not that many people will watch it. That was for me one reason to find logicality behind what I'm doing, and the second fear that I had was also that I was not going to be able to make that much sense when I was talking. And you know, the thing is, eventually you get better at doing that. You get better at making sense in talking in front of a camera. And even sometimes I have like that, how do you call it? That imposter syndrome where I'm not really making sense. I currently feel like I'm not really making sense in the present moment by talking in front of the camera. And I know that I'm slightly kind of drifting off and I'm trying to find the right words to get myself back on track. But that is how I get over the irrational fear that I was experiencing for recording these videos, for example. Like, it's a skill. You are not born with it. You are not born with strength. You are not born with a very strong mind that you can use for the better. And this is the only way that you can build up mental strength, and that is by repeatedly doing the action that you fear over and over and over again, making it a bit more difficult step by step every time that you do it again. And I believe that you can actually get there. It all comes down to self-belief. The only reason you fear it is because you don't believe that you will be able to handle that situation when it occurs. How can you have the self-belief to be able to handle that situation when it occurs? Is by purposefully putting yourself in that position where you have to handle it. I hope I've been able to make some sense. I'm gonna end this video with the thing that I always say, and that is to remember that you are 100% responsible for the results in your life. Make the hard decision today, and I'll see you in the next one. All right? Bye-bye.